when I was a teenager, I was sent to this wilderness camp called Ascent here in Montana, and I was verbally and physically abused, malnourished. I had male staff members watching while I showered. It was just torture every single day, and I wasn't able to tell my family because they would only allow monitored calls, and they would have their hand on the receiver, and if I would try to say one negative thing, the phone would immediately be hung up. I would be slapped, strangled, yelled at, and then they would lie to my parents. These places basically lie and manipulate the families and groom them in a way and kind of say to them, the kid is going to lie to you, they're going to say they're being abused, but your kid is lying, they're just manipulating you to get home. So it's kind of the perfect storm for these people because they can get away with it because they've just manipulated not only the children but also the families.
It's kind of a self-contained thing at that point.
Yes,
right?
And this has been happening for so many years, and that's why I've been fighting for legislation on this. And I've just been traumatized my entire life because of what I experienced.
And you've obviously advocated at the congressional level for regulations, and I know from covering politics at the state level, how many politicking goes on kind of behind the scenes, kind of in the back alleys and the hallways. But having your platform, how does that help your advocacy work on this issue?
I feel that it's my mission and my legacy, and I feel really grateful to have this platform to be able to shine a huge spotlight on such an important issue. And I'm so proud of all the impact that myself and all the survivors coming together have made, already changing laws in several states, and now being here in Montana tonight, and then I'm going to be going to Washington, D.C. again in the next few weeks to push this to federal legislation, because it should be illegal in all 50 states all around the world what's happening to children in the troubled teen industry.
Absolutely. I think probably an unfortunate characteristic of Montana is that they tend to be more wary of outsiders, I think, in general. We have what's called the citizen legislature, where they're not typically year-round politicians, but generally farmers and attorneys and people who kind of just come out of the woodwork once every 2 years to do this. And I'm curious, why should the Montana legislature care what Paris Hilton has to say? What about your abuse and your trauma should be important to them?
Well, my story is the same as hundreds of thousands of other survivors. And if this could happen to me, I don't even want to know what could happen to the other children who are coming from the foster care system, and children who have no voice, children with disabilities who are being abused, and no one can stand up for them. And I know for a fact this is still happening today. I'm in contact with people who have just been pulled out of these schools, and the parents are not aware of this until after. So much of this abuse is happening and nobody's finding out about it until the kids are out of these places. And this should not be happening in the first place. And I'm going to continue using my voice and continue fighting for this, and I'm not going to stop until change is made. And I'm just praying that people will do the right thing, because children's lives are on the line.
Obviously, Laura's bill saw a ton of support in the House. It's having a little tougher time in the Senate. I mean, what do you think will be necessary from your end and your team to put that pressure on the Senate?
Well, I'm here right now in Montana tonight, and if any of the senators want to speak to me about this, if anyone is on the fence about it, I will speak to them and tell them my story and everything that I know, because my team and I have been doing research on this, and we know everything that's happening behind closed doors in these places. And these people are elected to protect the people and the community and the children and the families. And what's happening is extremely illegal, and it needs to stop.
Absolutely. In your work in other states, has there been things you've learned that kind of surprised even you, who went to one of or several of these programs? 4 of them. I mean, in your advocacy work and talking with other survivors of these victims, have you learned more about this industry than you did from your own experience?
I've learned so much. I've talked to so many survivors, from people who have been here and now from many years ago, and it just blows my mind just how everyone's stories are the same, and just the type of abuse and the type of psychological abuse and the way that these places are handled and the people that work at these places. It's just is mind-boggling to me that there are so many people who are allowed to be, who should be nowhere near children, are in the position to have this power over them.